There was a time before computers. Before computers, there was storytelling. Before there was television, there was storytelling. Welcome to Discovering Our Story. Here we share stories both timeless and contemporary, stories kept by our elders and lived by our people, stories that celebrate indigenous ways of knowing, stories that provide illumination, stories that celebrate Native resilience. Stay with us. Discovering Our Story starts now.
All right. Well, hello and welcome to Discovering Our Story TV, brought to you by Wisdom of the Elders. My name is Kunu Bearchum. I'm Northern Cheyenne and Ho-Chunk Nation. Today I'm hosting in Bill Ray's absence. We wish he is doing well in his endeavors. And we have a few guests today from the Oregon LEAD program. And with us today we have Shilo George, Candace Jimenez, and Adam Becenti. And we will be getting to know them a little bit more, what they do in town, where they're from, where they're going, and then we'll learn a little bit more about the LEAD program and what it does for the Native community here in Portland, Oregon. And so, yeah, please introduce yourself.
My name is Shilo George, and I'm Southern Cheyenne and Arapaho, as well as Scottish and Irish. And I've grown up on these Multnomah lands and have been here all of my life. And really am grateful to be a guest here and grateful to the ancestors of this land. I was in the 2016-2017 LEAD cohort, and I don't know, it was a really great experience for me. I'm a consultant and a trainer here in town, doing a lot of work around intersectional racial equity and other types of healing work and trauma-informed care.
Awesome.
Yeah,
thank you. We're very happy to have you here with us today.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
So good morning, my name is Candace Jimenez, and I'm from the Confederated Tribes of Warm Springs. I grew up in Central Oregon, about 2 hours from Portland, and moved to the Portland area when I came here for college, and also lived a short time in Seattle, Washington. But came back to Portland and finished my education, and am now on the pathway to go into the OHSU School of Medicine. For the past 5 years, I've worked as a research coordinator at the Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board, working in child passenger safety and preteen oral health. So just incredibly thankful to be a part of this community and a part of the same LEAD cohort as Shilo from 2016-17 group, and just have learned quite a bit and have felt at home in the Portland community.
Cool. Thank you.
Yat Asia Adam Becenti Yanashe Zananjanina Schlet and Happy Bachachain Tobaha Dashache Todachi Nationale. Good afternoon, Canoe and relatives. I am Adam Becenti and I'm from Gallup, New Mexico, which is in the heart, in the area of Dene country, the Navajo Nation. That's where I'm enrolled and grew up in that area. But been out here in the Pacific Northwest, in Portland in particular, for 5 years, and currently work at the National Indian Child Welfare Association as a community development specialist. And what I do is focus on working with tribal communities in improving or strengthening their children's mental health systems. So work with tribes across the country and doing that tremendous work. I was a part of the 2014 LEAD cohort, I believe, and it certainly was a great experience, and I wouldn't be here if it weren't for that opportunity here, and really grateful for those experiences. And so glad to be here and look forward to this discussion.
Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah. Once again, Wisdom of the Elders. We're very lucky to have this place here at Open Signal and to do our monthly TV show here, which is it's been going on for more than 6 years now, and we do a live broadcast first Sunday of every month. But yeah, with that being said, I kind of want to get to ask some more questions about LEAD, and maybe we could learn a little bit more about the origins of LEAD and how many years it's been going, and just maybe a benefit or two that you could highlight in your life that you received from being a part of the LEAD program.
Okay. Guess I could go.
Okay.
So it's my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that LEAD's been going on for about 10 years. And I believe that it came out of a grant and a need in the community to develop leaders of every age, especially young leaders, of course, and really looking at leadership from a cultural perspective, or a lot of our different cultural perspectives. What I see as leadership is very focused, especially as someone who's gone through, academic settings, including graduate school. It's a lot about a sort of corporate, very white colonial idea of leadership. So what was really intriguing and exciting for me was to get into a cohort with other Native people from different backgrounds, different tribes, different even generations, and figure out what they thought leadership was, and learn from others, and really think about what that means about how we can help our community in this day and age with those cultural traditions in modern day. So for me, that was really exciting, and I learned a lot about different ways that we can approach leadership within our community. And I think it's important that it's culturally specific leadership.
Right. Yeah. And as you're saying that, I'm thinking about, what leadership means in the dominant culture, right? And how that looks. And honestly, in my mind, I imagine older white gentleman in a suit. Like that's what leadership is in America. And in my mind, as I see. And to indigenous peoples, leadership is a lot of times women. Kind of like directing, the village and the group of, what to do. And then also, like the idea of like leadership and maybe wealth, like, like a wealthy person in the past is someone who can give away a lot of things, right? And in this day and age, it's like, how much can you keep to yourself? And so I really like that idea that's kind of, LEAD is saying, hey, leadership is not always the same thing to different people. Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to what Shilo shared, I think for me and my own experience with the LEAD program is that it really taught the members of the cohort and also people who are supporting us that that leadership is it's truly like inherent in our tribal communities, whether you grow up here like in an urban setting here in Portland, or you grow up on the reservation, or maybe off the reservation. You haven't had that experience of being amongst tribal people or helping to learn how to advocate for your people. I think that was the biggest part of LEAD that was kind of crucial for me, was learning that we do have a place at all of these different tables, and that we need to represent ourselves, and that we do have that ability inside of us, and to just take that forward and have all of these people who are supporting you and be able to do that.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'd like to add a little comment to what when you were saying that is, I'm thinking, when we are at these tables and in these urban settings, may they be with the city or with Parks and Rec, or just some type of organizing or steering committee, we are, we have to be that good reflection of our community, right? Like our communities are usually not, right, down the street from where we're having these meetings. So we I imagine we have our our communities that are like here, like let's put you out into the world and just be good and and just represent us in a good way. And I think there's a lot more to that. That's where we have our communities on our back, and vice versa.
With LEAD and what you guys are saying, I definitely echo your guys' comments, and also think that LEAD is a way to organize, the collective voices and really bring us together to, as individuals, into that collective. Because sometimes when we get into urban spaces, we get lost as Native people. We're not always exposed to traditional cultures, and everything is sort of individualistic, which is great. At the same time, with tribal culture, it's about the collective and doing things for one another. And so the LEAD space, I think, definitely resonates and is able to sort of harness that collectiveness and really build a community. When I came here in 2013, I had a rough transition. I thought I wasn't going to make it in Portland, and I was able to find resources and eventually find out about the LEAD program. And so it was a space for me to come in and certainly meet other folks from the Native community. At the same time, build bridges, build a network, and so it definitely provided that space. And I lost a job, and the organization I was working for ended up closing its program down, but it was a LEAD cohort member that was able to tell me about another job and end up getting hired, and so it helped out and was that supporting arm. But watching out for one another and using that collective voice to be able to help one another, whether it be again losing a job, or even with political offices, or sharing resources as a collective. I think I really enjoy that and always look forward to that, because I feel every year LEAD has the opportunity to build this network that is bringing us together and allowing us to build our collective and use our voices in a very positive, productive way.
Yeah, that's really awesome. Because I personally in my I guess my career as a creative and doing work with Wisdom of the Elders, I'm just kind of getting into that place of like realizing that there is this really awesome network here in Portland. And so I grew up coming to Portland. I was born in Eugene, Oregon. Also raised in New Mexico, but I've always had family in Portland, so I've always had that kind of connection here. But I didn't realize there was such a really tight-knit community of business leaders and just community members, and just a lot of just really I would say just kind of like people that are motivated to go and live a good life and chase their dreams or whatever. That may sound cliche, but the really cool thing is here on this TV show, we've had a lot of like those individuals, and I've looked out, this TV show's been going on for 6 years now, so I've gone and looked in the archives and been like, oh my God, B Yellowtail was here, or so-and-so, and it's just really cool to kind of be stepping into that community, and I'm excited to be a part of LEAD coming up into this next year. And yeah, so this is really great, and I'd like to maybe steer the conversation into kind of digging a little bit deeper into each of your individual works, and maybe after that we can see how your works have maybe overlapped in the past, or if you have any plans for that in the future.
Yeah, I have about over 20 years of experience doing social work in a variety of different settings with different populations of people. And within that 20 years also worked on a lot of different types of activism and have my own journey through healing and things like that as well. And so when I was going through LEAD, and it's been several years that I've wanted to do consulting and training work, and I have a master's degree in adult learning and higher education. So, I have a lot of experience and education to do that, but I wasn't sure if I felt comfortable doing it or if I was ready to do it or how I would even start doing that, although training and consulting and teaching people has been a part of my life for many years. And so going through LEAD really helped give me confidence to do that. And I met some people in my cohort who have done consulting work before, and they talked to me a little bit about what it was like and maybe some steps I could take. And then one of our cohort members, Amber, started working at the Oregon Native American Chamber, and I had a meeting with her almost a year ago, and I was like, I'm ready to take this step. But I have no idea what to do. I have no idea how to run my own business. I've worked in nonprofits my whole entire life. I don't want to run a nonprofit.
Right.
And that was great work. I'd like to do something different. And so she got me resources to take an entrepreneur boot camp last year. And so I was able to do that, and since then has provided a lot of different ideas and resources and support, and really talked to people about the work that I'm doing. So this last year has been really exciting, and I've done a lot of work, like way more work than I thought I would do in the first year of my business. I thought I would work mostly with small nonprofits, and I've mostly worked with large government agencies and some tech firms, and which was shocking to me, but really exciting. And through the work that I did with LEAD and through that alumni network, it's really been great to go into especially large regional government spaces and start having some really deep conversations about equity and about how these agencies can access communities of color in a way that is uplifting, is opportunities for empowerment, and is hopefully not continuing to traumatize communities. And I think some of the people at these agencies are really excited and want to do that work, but maybe don't know exactly how to go about it. So the role that I play is having some conversations, really honest and transparent conversations about the history of these organizations on especially Native community here, and then how to best partner and collaborate. And one of my favorite things to do is to really do as much as I can to sort of interrupt and break up white supremacist culture in these organizations. And by that, I mean culture that is really about, like what we talked about, leadership that's very sort of white corporate centric, and this kind of corporate-centric atmosphere in organizations that is often very detrimental and hostile towards people of color or people with other marginalized identities. And so helping people understand what that looks like and what that is, which people get really uncomfortable about. And I'm like, good, that's great. I want you to be uncomfortable because that's where you learn from. So it's just really exciting to be able to come into spaces and help be like a cheerleader, but also be like, please don't do that. Here's another way to do things, and have people respect your perspective and things like that. It's been amazing, and I'm hoping that doing this work, I'll be able to help our people be at more tables. So helping open the doors and then getting out of the way and helping more community members get in and bringing community with me. So that's kind of what I'm sort of doing in a nutshell, and I'm really excited about it.
That's cool. Like, hearing that, I'm thinking, what I hear what you're doing is you're ushering in this new era of leadership, and you're actually making it easier because it's going to happen anyways.
Yes.
And you're making it easier for the old guard to be like, hey, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And let me help you to transition into that.
We can be gracious about it. I'm not so worried about the old guard and their feelings or whatever, like deeply. I don't want anybody to be hurt, but I really want to make sure that the communities that deserve a place at the table, or maybe we just get rid of the table altogether. Maybe we start doing things that are more culturally specific, like talking circles, or maybe, and I'm thinking very much from a sort of indigenous perspective, but maybe we smudge before a meeting, and bringing that into those spaces of like, we don't have to keep running meetings this way, where people feel alienated and they feel like their voices can't be heard. So it's kind of helping them with that, but being really honest about like this is happening. You can't do anything to stop it. So how do we create spaces and opportunities where everybody can feel better, but specifically marginalized communities? That's who I'm concerned about.
For sure.
The other people who have a lot of privilege and power will take care of themselves, but I want to make sure those people are protected and have a place.
Awesome. That's great. Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you for that. And
Yeah.
yeah, Candace, can you
Yeah.
tell us some more about your work?
Yeah, so when I think about like my entire journey, I always start like back to childhood. So my lifelong goal and my passion, my dream is, finally happening to get into medical school. But I've kind of always known that I wanted to go into medicine, to be a healer. And it was knowing that I grew up in a home that had my grandmother there. And so my grandma would always share like her generation above. One of her aunts delivered all of the 13 children at home.
Wow.
All her generation. So she was born at home, no complications amongst all of her siblings. So I always thought, wow, we have that power as Native people. Like, we're healers already, we're born that way. And so I knew that I wanted to go into medicine. So when I went to school here in Portland, I went to school for biology, and then I went into a master's in public health at OHSU. And I went into public health because I felt like working in our tribal communities, we need that perspective where we're looking at the entire community. And I feel like public health has that inherent part of taking everything in. It's not just a patient showing up with a certain symptom, and then that's the only thing we're looking at. When I see a person, I see, like I meet you, Kunu, and I think about who are the people in your circle, who are the people that you associate yourself with, the environments that you're a part of, like nature, and then each of our spirituality. And I think that's all taken in to develop like a healing medicine tool that we need to reinvigorate, and we need to bring that together with non-traditional medicine that hasn't been a part of our indigenous cultures. And we have to bring those together somehow, because we come to these schools of medicine that are off our tribal communities, and we have to learn how to integrate those together, but also teach Western schools about how we heal. So that's kind of been my pathway, and working at the health board has been tremendous for me, because it's been a part of this network of physicians who work both at OHSU and at the health board, and they have given me tools and resources. And a part of that journey too that I would like to mention is that I didn't have any like people that I could look up to as a kid, as a Native kid, like that I could go to this IHS clinic and see an indigenous physician.
Right.
I never had that. Like I didn't know, how do I even become a doctor? Like I don't know what that even looks like. So there are two doctors here at OHSU who are Native that just came a few years ago, Dr. Eric Brote and Amanda Briegel, and both of them are the first Native doctors that I have ever seen or known personally. And so that was really powerful, just to see that and know that it's possible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I recently met them as well, and I was blown away. And this summer, Wisdom of the Elders, we brought some kids over to the Northwest area, Northwest Center for Indigenous Excellence, or sorry,
yeah,
was
the Northwest Native American Center for Excellence.
Yeah, and that was wild. That was so cool. I'm like, whoa, you got a bunch of Indians in here? That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about those kids too, right? And for for them to see that, and just like you're saying, like, in one generation, like we can bring these kids to here to Portland, and they can see, like, look, here's a whole group of Native doctors here, and they're doing good work, and just have that visual, right? Just to be like, oh, okay, if they did it and they look like me, I can do it too. Yeah, and that's super important. And I hope that your community is really really positively affected by that, and I hope you have a lot of nieces and nephews that are like, hey, I can do that too now, and I imagine you do. So that's really cool. Yeah, well, thank you, and that's great. I'm very humbled to be in the presence here and hear your stories.
Candace is a very humble person too. This year I got a chance to work with her at the Thrive conference with the Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board. And so this conference is a suicide prevention conference working with tribal youth, mostly coming from the Pacific Northwest tribal communities. And so Candace and I were on the health track, and we served as folks that are sort of role models, or at least adults that encourage folks to go into the health field. And so Candace put together an amazing video. So she has skills in other areas too, outside of the medical field. But it was great to see other natives doing outstanding work there, and so I got to see her in action. And I've also seen Shilo in action too, because she's an artist. And so it's amazing to see her work at the One Flaming Arrow conference. Yeah, so I'm in awe of these folks here, and I'm also humbled like you just to be in their presence. And so thanks for sharing your stories. Like Candace, I always like to go back to my own sort of lineage and really kind of reflect on kind of where I've been and how I've gotten here. And I always like to think of this story and of my grandmother always telling me that your blood is the same blood as some of your ancestors. Even her great grandmother was in the Long Walk, and so the Long Walk obviously was when our people were forced to captivity. Forced to walk hundreds of miles and were in captivity for years, and probably maybe a third of them ended up coming out alive, and so decimated our population. But she told me that your family is survivors, and we're all survivors in here, and so and we're also thriving as well, and it sounds like that very much so here. And so my path sort of coming from New Mexico has gone in different ways and directions. I was in Colorado. I did some work for higher education admissions and providing access to Native American youth and high schoolers, and also transfer students. And so got to see that sort of inequity lens, and see sort of the levers and some of those areas where you have to have tough conversations to provide access to a certain amount of people, even though it says sort of like that everyone is open and it's free, but obviously there's a lot of barriers for underrepresented communities, like indigenous folks and tribal folks. And so I got a chance to really get into some good work there, and but really open my eyes to other opportunities and thinking about more vehicles that could help me help others, essentially. And so thought about grad programs, which ended up taking me to Michigan, where I got a public policy graduate master's, and eventually moved to Portland in 2013. And at that time I was thinking, I'll work in that field. I'm not sure what that field was going to be in. Because I've worked with a lot of youth over the years, and I've done different types of student enrichment programs, and been a part of like Unity. There used to be a youth program, and I think it started back up with the Association of American Indian Physicians, that also helped usher in youth into the medical field. And so I was thinking maybe I'll go that route, but I ended up jobless, and things didn't work out the way I thought they would. But I think that just with our beliefs, things will work out the way they should. And sometimes that's hard to kind of understand in the moment, but it eventually brought me here and brought me to work in children's mental health. And so I worked in a psychiatric residential treatment program for almost 3 years, and where I did a lot of direct care, but also working with tribal communities and understanding some of the mental health needs and sort of capacity areas that a lot of tribes are doing or are thinking of doing. And so I was serving in that role to help Native youth who are challenged with mental health psychiatric disorders, like suicide ideation or depression. And so really got a chance to see on the ground, what our youth are going through, and really see, the trauma that's there, see how many systems they've been through, also see, the family support or maybe even lack of. And so I got a chance to open my eyes to this need. And it really has propelled me into working into the mental health field and children's mental health in particular. It's one of the greatest needs in Indian country, and so certainly am continuing to move in this direction. With my position now as a community development specialist, I work with tribal communities that have a grant called Systems of Care, and they are basically building this sort of system, or even they're trying to also indigenize it too, instead of system, calling it society of care. So trying to reclaim, because of course systems is kind of a stigma for most Native folks, and kind of the institution, it kind of has those negative connotations, and so helping out with those discussions and really being a facilitator on the ground, and not necessarily providing answers, but helping tribes sort of think big, think in ways that would make their ancestors proud. How do you traditionally serve your community, your families, your youth in this way, and sort of trying to picture that and think about that. How do we then build that, or bring that back, or strengthen it? Because sometimes it's not always lost. It's just still continuing to improve and strengthen. So tribes are at different sort of stages when they're building these systems of care or societies of care. And so really got a chance to work with youth, work with families, work with program directors, and so I've been serving in this capacity for almost 3 years now, and so continuing to do this work, but also thinking about sharing my time again with youth, such as like volunteering for the Thrive camp and that particular conference. I work also with the Northwest Portland, the Potlatch Fund, which is in Washington, and so I've been volunteering with them, and so just trying to help support my community, and my community is of course here in Portland, but also across the country. And so any way I can help, and I think I've also brought you and your counterpart Fish in when I worked in the Native residential program, and so but I think it's more continuing to put my efforts toward building children's mental health systems, and really just being someone who could serve my community in any way, and so that's kind of sort of my direction that I've been taking the last couple of years.
Yeah. Well, I'm just having these memories of, was it the Cedar Bow?
Yeah.
Cedar Bow. That was, that was really, I'm not gonna lie, that was really heavy to be there, and to, me and my music partner Fish, we went over there and we showed some of our music videos, and then did a little performance for them. But, it was really, really opened my eyes to, seeing like, we think about, the just in society as in general, the mental health issues we have in this society, and how our family members, and our community members are pushed to the edges of society. It's like, if you can't act right, then we're just well, hopefully you'll get your stuff together or whatever. That's like kind of the vibe that I see. But to actually be there and to see these, these kids in this situation, and to really realize like this is like the most, like neglected portion of our, our communities here. These kids, like why are these kids here? And it's really commendable, man, just to know that you're doing that work, and you were with those kids, and helping them with whichever way that you could, and that you did, and it just to this day, it just has such a big effect on me. And we all grew up in these communities, these Native communities, and it's like, at some point it's like you survived, right? It's like you survived high school, you survived college or whatever, because I'm sure we all have someone close to us that did commit suicide, or and it's super serious in our communities, and I just, want to say thank you for doing that work, and then to also know that, it's like to go from that work, from the most vulnerable, of the kids, then to also, on the other side, you're working with the thriving leaders, that it's just, I don't know. I just want to comment on that. Just, that, like how do we get them from there to here, and that journey to really just, to be happy in life. And, there's no easy way, but.
Well, I'd like to add just to thank you and our other folks of being here, because it's being in front of a camera and hearing the stories of others that are, trying to make it as well. And you being here, everyone being here is sort of an inspiration for those out there. Us, kids seeing us and seeing people that are like us on camera or in these spaces is something we need more of, so thank you for this opportunity, and thank you again for being here, everyone.
Yeah, representation that's huge, and in my work at Wisdom of the Elders, we work for, getting project grants for, this or that, and, it always comes down to representation. And, I have a few years now of, putting together these, these whys, like, oh, why do you need this money? It's like, well, representation, like, we need to be, we need to have that for, for the next generation, so they can see that, we're not forgotten in, general society. And what's the, it's like, there's that word that, erasure, or the erasure of us, and I'm learning a lot through Kaila and her work, and through,
she's an amazing artist.
Like I'm learning all these new words, like wait, what did you say, Kaila? What was that? I want to use that in my next my next speech or whatever.
I think it's so great though to practice that lifelong learning too, and that humbleness of we don't all know what the answers are, and it's really, I think that's where collaboration and community is so powerful, is that we can learn from each other. And one of the things about Adam that I really love is Adam's like everywhere. Sometimes I feel like
Totally
there's a couple of you. Because I'll be like, whoa, Adam's here, and then at this event, and then whoa, look at Instagram, whoa, and this. So I think that's really powerful though, because I always know if I go to an event, I'll know someone there, because I always know Adam's going to be there. But also just knowing so many people and learning about the resources in the community. And then another piece, I think, is those of us who are doing this work too, is to always, and I have to remind myself of this all the time, is resilience and the importance of talking about resilience and reminding myself about it and other people, because doing trauma-informed care and talking about trauma, it's one thing I learned from Jolene Joseph, who's just an amazing woman, an amazing healer in the community, is that resilience piece is so important. The two have to be talked about at the same time. And I think with youth in particular, there's a lot going on for them. There's a lot of pressure. There's sometimes a lot of difficulty that they're dealing with. And I know that when I work with youth and have the opportunity, and really I feel so grateful to be able to spend time with youth, and really just validating what's going on for them, and validating that, they are strong and they are surviving and thriving. And I learn a lot from them, and I think we have a lot to learn from youth. And I know that I feel really, sometimes, the last couple of weeks have been really hard for a lot of people, and I particularly have felt the intensity of the last couple of weeks. And so I look at our youth and I'm like, they're amazing. And I know they're struggling as well. And but I'm just so excited about the life and the beauty and the strength that they bring to our communities. And I'm always trying to, remind people and tell them, like, whatever youth are in your life, please tell them how much you love them, like, all the time, and how glad you are that they're here, because I think that they're not getting that message across enough, and there's just so much in the media and online, and sometimes it's really negative, and then we have that erasure of who actually we are, and then there's all these people who appropriate our culture or have these ideas of who we are. And so I think it's important just to tell them, we are very strong people, we are survivors. And I remember when I was in PSU as an undergraduate, I was at an Indigenous class, and they were talking about Gerald Visner, who's an Anishinaabe literary critic and writer. And we were discussing his short stories. And one of the things the professor, Dr. Grace Dillon, said was that he talked about how, this is our, it's kind of, it's a little bit sad in a way, but this is our, as Native people, post-apocalyptic existence.
Right.
Which kind of blew my mind. And I was like, oh my goodness, it just sort of aligned a lot of things for me in my mind. And even though that's kind of sad, it's also we are here and we're not going anywhere. And we our ancestors and my ancestors, if I just talking about myself, have been through so much to make sure that I'm here. I want to do everything I can to honor that legacy and to honor, who they are. And I think there's just this wealth of strength from that,
Yeah.
and part of resilience, but
Yeah. And that concept of, our existence is a post-apocalyptic existence is, just a really quick side note. This is so my partner here at Wisdom of the Elders. We're filmmakers, and we write scripts a lot. And that idea, that concept of the post-apocalyptic existence, we've kind of said we've thought of that idea, right? That concept just in film, we've already been through it. So all of these movies about people being scared of what'll happen when society crumbles and da da da. And it's well. I don't know, talk to some Indians,
honestly,
They're 400 years later, this is their post-apocalyptic existence. So, that's heavy. That's
I know it's intense. I know it's intense for TV, but
that's awesome.
You gotta put it out there.
It helps me a lot to frame it that way a little bit.
And the survivance piece.
The survivance.
We got this.
Yeah, we totally do. We totally do. And the things recently, I see a lot of things online, especially white folks are just what is happening right now? And I'm this has been happening for over 200 years. Just it maybe hasn't hit your particular positionality of where you are and things. So sometimes I'm FYI, this colonial government has officially been in existence for just over 200 years, and in this area it's less than 200 years in the Northwest. So just keep that in mind in terms of since the beginning of time. Less than 200 years is just a snap of your fingers. It's
this comfort levels are what's the word? It's your comfort level is different than this person's comfort level. And, but I want to.
Sorry, what a fun tension.
Let's. I think let's save this conversation for a few minutes, and then we'll have some closing statements. And but for now, we'd like to share a video segment from one of Wisdom of the Elders' documentaries about the people of the Oregon coast, and this is called Elder Wisdom, and we will be showing a clip with Bud Lane.
Hello everyone. Bud Lane Wa'amnushi. My name is Bud Lane, and I'm a member of the Confederate Tribes of Siletz Indians. My ancestry comes from the Rogue and Chetco rivers in southwestern Oregon, and also from the Shasta people inland on the Oregon-California border. Our people were fishing people down there on the mouth of the Rogue. Their sustenance come from the ocean and from the river there. And we lived like most coastal Indians in the Northwest live. Plank houses, dugout canoes, practiced our winter dances. So the idea was to concentrate all the Western Oregon Indians on one reservation. And yes, there was in 1856 and clear up to the 1862 or 3, there were large movements of people being brought to the Sluts Reservation during those times. And some even came by steamer out of Port Orford. All the Western Oregon bands are represented here in Siletz. I was lucky enough as a young man in my 20s to apprentice myself to a lot of the speakers of the day. Athabascan was really the last major indigenous language standing. One of the main things and ways that I expanded my knowledge and use of the language was in our ceremonies, in our neitash, the feather dance. And the requirements of being able to put that on require reciting our creation story, our dance prayers, and all of our songs are in the Athabascan language. So there's a necessity in keeping that sacred ceremony alive for this generation and on into the future to make sure that it's around for another 10,000 years if we do it right. The dances are really our people's way. It really is essentially the old belief system, and a lot of us are still adherents to it here today in the Sluts Valley. We have, of course, many different tribal members who are of different religious persuasions, and but the feather dance is really the neetash. It's called feather dance in English because we like to wear all of those little feathers that are all tied together, and there's just lots of them in the dance. But essentially, at its heart, it's about thanking God for making the world and making us, and then also on a seasonal or annual basis for providing what He does for us, for clean water and food and clean air and our families, and food we eat every day, the things that sustain us. So, we hold the main dances on the winter solstice, which is, the next day the sun starts its incremental climb into the sky. But what it represents to us is the days are getting longer, and soon the clams are going to be getting fat in their shell again, and all the brush is going to come on and make itself available to us. All the animals are going to be born, the new animals, and all the medicines are going to be growing, the plant medicines. So what that represents to us is the Creator's promise that if we live right and we obey His law, that He'll send us that renewal every year. And if we do our dances and mark that time and give that thanks. So it plays a central role in our lives, and it always has. When you think about it, when you've had those types of blessings poured out on you and your people, the salmon runs, the availability of acorn and all the other foods, there's a lot there and there's a lot to be thankful for. This is our place. Our people have lived here for an awful long time, and we're going to be here for a long, long, long time in the future. And so, to teach our young people about those things, vitally important. And also about the lands that we gave up to come to this reservation. They need to recognize that they're the first Oregonians, and they have a special relationship with this land and this place. And we need to reinforce that. We do it through language, through dance, through our foods, through all those things.
All right. Well, yeah, we're back, and we are with Shilo, Candace, and Adam, and we've just been having a really good conversation about the work you do and, just how you positively affect the community here in Portland. And we have a few minutes left in the program, and I would like to see if you have any upcoming projects, and if you do, or maybe you don't have any projects you're working on right now, maybe if there's a website or somewhere people can learn more about your work.
Yeah, I am always involved with many projects. Let's see, in the winter and into spring, I'm planning on doing some community conversations, like some workshops. and they're going to be about navigating health systems and being an advocate for yourself. I know that there's a lot of people, especially people of size, who really struggle with getting healthcare needs addressed and having relationships with good, positive relationships with providers. And I'm so glad Candace is going to be a doctor and is already a healer. So that's good. So I'll be doing that. I'm working on a book with 3 other people about body sovereignty, and just doing different trainings and projects. But I have a website. It's shilogeorge.com, SHILOGEORGE.com. And I'm also in the process of having a better website built as well. So check back in. Okay. And then I'm on Instagram under LKT_consulting. Okay. Or you can look up Shilo George too on Instagram, and then of course I have Facebook. So I'd love to hear from anyone if anyone has any questions or needs.
Yeah, or if anyone wants to, try to book you for some of your services.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always available for that.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I would just like to mention the work with the Northwest Portland Area Indian Health Board. We have the Native CARS program, which stands for Native Children Always Ride Safe. And we have a website that is kind of like an online tribal toolkit for communities to use to look at different ways that their own communities can look at their own stages of readiness and how they can improve child passenger safety in their own communities. So if you wanted to look that up, it's nativecars.org. And then the other thing I'd like to mention is I'm always trying to encourage youth who are interested in going into healthcare professions or science, anything really, the STEM fields, to text HEALER to 97779. So it's 97779. And so that's kind of a new mentorship opportunity that's available through the Northwest Native American Center of Excellence at OHSU to help get people connected with Native faculty, Native physicians, Native people in the health field, other students who are maybe on that pathway, to encourage youth to go into healthcare and science fields.
Wow. So that's like a service that is open.
That's
anyone
available.
can text, and that's really cool. All right. Well, we will remember that, and we will make sure we post that with this when we put this online. That's really cool. I love that with technology you're able to. I mean, wow, that's really cool. Yeah, very, very awesome. Well, we will definitely push that information out to Indian country through our website as well. And yeah, thank you. And Adam?
So regarding that post-apocalyptic movie, definitely going to be auditioning for Mad Max in your movie. So hopefully that hasn't been taken yet, because I'd love to be the native Mad Max.
Right?
That'd be so cool. Upcoming projects for me, just sort of looking far ahead, is the NICWA conference. Again, National Indian Child Welfare Conference is going to be in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Okay. Nice. Land of Enchantment in April 2019, and so going to be working with the local planning committee, and just going to be thinking about how we could create a great experience, for folks that are going to be coming across the nation to this national conference. And it's a 3-day conference that covers a range of different types of workshops, from Indian child welfare practice to children's mental health, government practice, Medicaid, also what's happening on the youth and family fronts. We know a lot of our youth and families are being leaders, and really using their voices to inform and create more effective programming, for their communities and for states and for their areas there. So definitely looking forward to that. And we do have workshops. Sort of the proposals are open now. So if you're looking to submit, definitely look on our website, nicwa.org. So definitely check that out. I think for myself, going to be working on a couple different projects with some communities in Washington as well as Pasquayaki, and also been working off and on with the health board and trying to create a tribal policy guide as well. So going to be wrapping that up hopefully in 2019. You know, I think it's one of those labor of loves. It's kind of ebbs and flows, but the work is coming along there. And for next month, November, I'm going to be helping out with the Potlatch Gala, which is going to be in Suquamish. So I'm on their planning committee, and so that's coming up. So if you're looking to definitely check it out, a lovely gala, kind of like the NEA Gala. Potlatch is having theirs in November, and so I think that's all I have coming up in sort of the professional realm. You know, with my sort of outside the professional world, always paddling.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
Doing outrigger canoe and whatnot. Yeah, I got a race coming up in a couple weeks, actually in Seattle, you know, so definitely you guys are all welcome to come out and paddle on the Columbia River. So and as well as those folks out there too, you know, so yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And looking to see you guys in the community doing some wonderful things. So.
Yeah, cool. Well,
Can I say something really quick just
Yeah, of
about
course.
The LEAD program? So I think usually well, we're just starting cohort right now. You know that because you're starting it in about a month, or actually later this month. But usually I think the time where they recruit people is in the summer. And I just wanted to let folks know that because sometimes and this is a thing that I thought about LEAD, was that they were just looking for like maybe people who are super professional or are very academic or things like that, but it's really open to like natives of all different backgrounds, whether you're someone who, you know, has, you know, been through higher ed or not, you're someone who, you know, does, you know, work in whatever kind of work in the community. It doesn't have to necessarily be social work or community engagement specific. And it can be maybe for people who also don't know as much about their culture. It can be a way to reconnect and to meet others. I've heard a lot from people about being kind of intimidated to apply. And I just want to encourage anyone, if it's something that you're interested in, meeting people and connecting and learning about a different way to be a leader in your community, or helping share with others and connect with other people, because there's people who get in and apply who have had years of leadership experience, and then there's people who are sort of on that new road to leadership. So I just want as many people to apply as possible and to not be intimidated about it, because everybody's welcome. It's a beautiful cohort experience I had, and I think the two of you also had, and I know from other people. So don't be intimidated.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, and to our audience, just want to echo that. You know, take that chance and you know, take that step. The LEAD is an amazing program. I've personally met several alumni of LEAD and had really awesome experiences, and with the cohort, or with the alumni that I've met, and I'm really looking forward to being a part of LEAD. And yeah, thank you so much to our audience who've tuned in today, and thank you to our guests.
Thank you.
And to all my relations, have a good day.
Thanks, Kunu.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
To live with health from generation to generation, preserving the culture, quietness, peacekeeping, spiritual balance, the red road of happiness, helping one another with power from Creator. Respect and honor all peoples and all creation.
Here we stand before you. Here we stand humble and human. Here we stand